It's me and Weezes.
Hey guys, what's good?
Today, we're gonna talk about N.W.A. So we've been wanting to do this for a while, but we're just kind of debating on like if it's a good idea based on like some of their album names and stuff. We don't want to get canceled for saying the names of their albums or the name of their group.
But if you want to hear the unbleeped version, just hit us up. No,
Hit us up for the unbleeped version. Yeah. Anyways, so we're gonna be careful. Just don't cancel us, all right? Because this is a very important topic. So, anyways, who is N.W.A? You ask. If you don't know, you're a lame loser, dude. Just
you
saying.
live under a rock.
Yeah, you live under a freaking rock. So N.W.A was. Do we call them a hip hop group or a rap group? I'm not sure what we would
I
call
would
them.
say
It was
it's a
hip-hop.
rap group for sure.
Well, and I think they're categorized under like a hip hop group, but they were a group of dudes who got together. They formed their little crew in Compton. They were like some of the earliest, right? I think they were probably among the earliest people and most significant rappers out there at the time. They created like gangster rap, basically. You know, it wasn't just hip hop. It wasn't just rap. It was that gang stuff. And it was
They
ooh,
popularized it. We'll say that.
yeah, popularized. That's the best way to say it. They were very controversial. Controversial. How do I say it? Yeah, controversial. I don't know why I can't say that word. Like I've never been to school, right? Back in the day though, because of the way they rapped and like the music that they had was very, I don't know, people called them
Explicit, dude. That's what you
yeah, it was
say.
explicit, but
Explicit.
people called them misogynistic and said they were like glorifying crimes and drugs. And I'm not going to say they were glorifying it because the way they said it was more that they're like telling their story. You know what I mean? They were saying the stuff
But
that was actually
I
happening
feel
out
like
on.
they were how do I say, they were telling the truth of how the hood basically is. I feel
Exactly.
like that's what they did.
And the news outlets and like the media and stuff was trying to say that they were just glorifying all of this murder and like raping women and all this stuff, but they were literally just calling it as it was happening on the streets, right? It consisted of like
It's like they're literally the nicest people. No,
right. I wish I knew them back then, dude. I mean, I'm sure there was some sketchy, you know, gangbanger shit going on back then. Like, and I'm sure they openly talk about it in interviews and stuff too. But things were probably crazy. But if you watch their movie Straight Outta Compton, I think that's the one that portrays things the best of like the story that happened to them. But what I was gonna say is here's where it gets like a little confusing timeline wise of who was actually in N.W.A, right? Because I think the most popular people that everyone knows Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, and Ice Cube. Those are like the top three. Like everyone knows who they are. But then when they first started, they actually formed in like 1987, which is crazy to think because that's a long ass fucking time ago. Like I wasn't even born. I wasn't even a thought in my parents' mind, you know, for a while.
it's like
Like
your
it's
parents hadn't
crazy.
even met, bro. What do you mean?
Yeah, my parents hadn't even met, dude. I think how old was my mom? She was young. She was like a teenager.
Damn,
But
she was out there.
yeah, and like so Easy and Dre are like the first two, I think. Like they are like we got to do this, right? We got to form this band, we got to form this group, we got to do this. And then they have Arabian Prince comes in, Ice Cube, you know, DJ Yella, MC Ren, and then we got DOC. So that's like the main that was NWA.
Yeah,
But there wasn't it wasn't just NWA. So they had like NWA and the Posse, which is they released like their first little album thing together, but it's because I think this is where Arabian Prince like left. He left right away. He wasn't part of it for long, but it's because
yeah.
all these other people from all these different groups were getting together, so they called it NWA and the Posse for a little bit, and then it just went to NWA. So Arabian Prince left like right after their first little thing going down. And then Straight Outta Compton comes, and like this is where they really blow up, right? They start to blow up at this point. They release, and now they have tons of platinum selling solo artists, like all the people who came out of that, because they obviously disbanded at one point, and we'll touch on that a lot coming up. But I kind of have like a little timeline of events and like how it worked out for them. It's not super detailed, but we'll get more into details later. But we'll start with Eazy-E because he's like the heart and soul of it all, right? He's the one who started NWA.
Yeah. Well, Well, that's hard. It's not. It would be Dr. Dre and Ice Cube because they're the one, he's the beats, and then Ice Cube wrote the song for Boys in
Yeah.
the Hood, which is his first
Well,
song.
well, definitely the talent comes from them, but Eazy is the one who thought, let's start this, and he picked the dudes who he wants to start it with, right?
How do
So
I
that's where
say it?
that's where Eazy comes in. Is he like was like, I want this guy, and they start introducing each other there because of Eazy. But then Eazy-E, like if you really think about it, and if you watch the movie, Eazy didn't really like. It's not like he was a good rapper or musician or DJ or anything, and he was just like, I'm gonna go out and fight these people. He didn't really have anything. He didn't really bring anything to the table at first, right? He just was their friend and wanted a group of guys to get together so he could make some money and some records. Like,
It's
right?
like
That's honestly
it's
it.
like not all he was the money, bro. So he was a drug dealer.
Yeah, yeah. He brought in the money to get everything started. So then he brings in Dre and they bring in Ice Cube and they get everyone together. And this was back in 1987. So then they release so then I'm sorry. This is when Eazy-E gets Jerry Heller in and like is trying to get them a record label and like all this stuff, because they start releasing some music. So that's where everything gets kind of funky. Is like they try to bring everyone together and then like people are leaving, people are coming and going. It's weird. So they released their first single, which was called Panic Zone. Um, it was produced by Dre and N.W.A. and the Posse, all those people at this time. It was basically ignored. Like they didn't get anything from this. Like no one heard of it. It wasn't really listened to. It was kind of just something they did.
It was a bust.
So yeah. So then that following year, 1988, that's when MC Ren came to the group. So when Ren came in, that's when their beats like started to kind of transform into more of like the more violent and like harder stuff, basically. Later that year is when they released Straight Outta Compton. That's where things I think really just blew up for them. They had this is kind of where things went crazy for the world, right? Because they released Straight Outta Compton. They're releasing all these songs that have things about like fuck the police, that kind of thing. And
It
at
was
this
it
point,
was the cussing, dude. It was the cussing that the world wasn't accustomed to.
hmm they're not accustomed to people like saying the things they were saying. Because I mean, I love it. Like I love to go. I listen to N.W.A all the time. Like that. But when you actually like listen to the lyrics, you're like, dang, this is a little wild. But I mean, it's not worth what they went through. And I guess all the when they had the fuck the police stuff out, they actually ended up getting a letter from the FBI like saying, shut this shit down. This ain't okay. You got to stop like promoting, violence towards the police. So then I'm not sure exactly when that riot happened, but if you watch the movie, they were told like by all these venues that they were getting gigs at and stuff. They were told you cannot play that song. Not allowed. You're gonna we're gonna kick you out if you play that song. So they
Yeah.
did. It was actually in Detroit that it happened. They played the song and they said there was gunshots and all this stuff and the police started like rioting to shut this thing down. Like the police started it, not the fans. And so then it went into like a full-blown riot. Everyone's fighting, there's gunshots. But then some people were saying that there was never actually like they weren't using their guns at first. They were just like throwing fireworks and that kind of thing, like the police were to like scare people and get them out of there. But who knows?
Okay, dude. So see what you're saying is what Jerry Heller commented on this, and because he's like, well, he was there when all that really happened. He said that they weren't there, like the people that shot up were like more like celebrating, right? They
Yeah.
weren't shooting at each other, like they shot their guns like out of excitement, and I guess that was enough excuse for the cops to like let's go all out,
Yeah.
start taking people in, and it just became a riot. And then they said that the N.W.A crew, like they flipped their shirts, like they were hiding, their hats. They like took them off, they flipped them over. They started hiding themselves basically, and they everyone separated and made their own way. And they didn't arrest them there; they arrested them there at the hotel.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because
Oh, but like
that
you're saying, like the rioting, like there wasn't rioting until the cops started like fighting,
yeah,
like going
like
after them.
everyone was enjoying themselves and like the crowd was getting crazy. Everyone knew the words to the songs and like they that was like their we made it moment. Like they were up there, everyone knew the words to their songs. They were famous. And then the police, especially in Detroit, you don't want to like be in a riot there. Like, not saying anything bad about Detroit, but that there's some
But you
crazy
can't have
shit
shit
that
in
goes on there.
Detroit, dude. No, I just
Yeah. You can't have shit. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but so anyways, they start things like that, and there was actually places that wouldn't allow them, and it started to become like media stations and stuff wouldn't even play their music because they're
Oh
saying
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh,
No,
bring out,
what's it called? You know the main medias for the rappers and hip hop back then,
yeah,
MTV, VHS, and all those. They wouldn't even play their videos on their TV channels.
yeah,
They were basically censored.
yeah, exactly. It was everything was just being censored at this point, right? They that was in 1989, I said, right? That they released that, or 88? No, it was 88. Sorry. So in 1989, their Straight Outta Compton album was actually the first of their albums and like songs to get that parental advisory sticker put on it. So like this is a big deal because this only actually started, I think the first people to ever have that on their CD was Two Live Crew or something like that. And then now N.W.A is getting it on their stuff, right? It must have been, I don't know if that was 89. I don't know. It was right around there. Everyone started like they just got this sticker and they were one of like the first groups to have it on their CD. So then
They
people are like, "Oh
actually, what's
my
it called?
god,
It was
like
like
kids can't listen."
the board for censorship, bro. They
Yeah.
had to make up like new rules because of them.
So then they re-released. Okay, so this is a weird part is that they actually did re-release Straight Outta Compton, but like on a CD and stuff because things were good. They released the song and it was on the radio and stuff. But then they re-released it a couple of years later, and then in 1990. So this is after all the success from that stuff. You would assume they're all rich, they're all living their best lives, all the stuff. So like end of 1989, beginning of 1990. This is where Ice Cube starts to be like, hey. I've written half the fucking music. Like I've written all the lyrics for this CD and I'm getting nothing. You guys are paying me
Hold on, dude.
nothing.
Hold on. He not just the CD for N.W.A. He also wrote all the songs for Eazy's solo album that released before. So
Okay.
he didn't get paid for any of that album or the N.W.A. album.
Yeah.
So there's
And,
two albums that basically blew up,
and he's
because
getting nothing.
Easy and he's getting nothing. Yeah.
He's getting like pennies on the dollar at this point when he's getting paid. So he's like,
He
I
false promises basically.
yeah, and he's saying I'm not receiving my fair share of the money from this stuff, like where's the profits here because I'm not getting it shit. So then in May 1990, I think at this point he's bounced, right? He releases his own album, which is the America's Most Wanted one. And then he releases so once he releases his own, I forgot about this part. Sorry, this is why I got confused on my timeline. Sorry for the pause. So he releases America's Most Wanted. And then a couple months later, that's when N.W.A, who's still, together at this point, goes out and releases that diss track to Ice Cube. 100 Miles and Running, I think is what it was called. So
Yeah.
they released that. And then like 2-3 months after that, then Ice Cube releases his diss track for N.W.A. So this is where like they were just dissing on each
It was
other, right?
it was on the second album. It was on the second album. He basically released the second album like to show him that he could do it better than them,
Yeah, and
right?
I mean,
And the last song on his album is called No Vaseline.
yes, and that's where he talks about what's his face too, Jerry Heller, saying they
Yeah.
should put like a bullet in his temple and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, just
So,
talking mad shit.
yeah, and I mean his solo career was fire though. I'm not gonna lie, like I love his stuff. So then 1991, this is where Ice Cube released Death Certificate, and he actually it sold like over 2 million copies. It was pretty successful, and this is when the state of Oregon actually said that like no one can have any image displayed of Ice Cube in their retail store or space because it was illegal because of the violent lyrics on it. So like then store owners and people who were trying to sell the CD, they couldn't even advertise Ice Cube in their store in Oregon, in the state of Oregon at that time.
Imagine you go to the store to get a new album and his new album and you're like, hey, I got that Ice Cube on the down low. On the
Yeah,
down low.
right.
On
Yeah,
the
Ice
down low.
Cube.
Just go around back and then you go
Well,
around back, you just get arrested.
well, they didn't specifically say. Well, they didn't state that you couldn't sell the album necessarily in the thing that I saw. So we would actually have to look it up. They just said that you couldn't like have pictures or images of Ice Cube or his album or anything displayed in their retail space. That was illegal. So it didn't necessarily say because I don't think you can stop someone for selling a CD or a book, right? You can say like, oh, drugs are illegal, you can't sell them, but you can't make a person illegal. So, I'm well.
Unless they make it illegal.
That's not what I set myself up, dude. Oh no. Um. So, anyways, in 1991, after all that, this is where
You're
Dre's like, I
like
want
back in 1850.
to back in the 1700s. Okay, so anyways, Dre at this point, this is like in 91 still, he decides like he wants to leave NWA too because he's starting to realize, wait a second, Ice Cube was onto something. This is unfair. There's some shit going on here. Um,
Hold on, Miranda. Let me intersect a little bit of knowledge in there
okay.
too. Is that we have another one of their members too, right? DOC.
Mhm.
He basically, basically all of them were solo artists at that point, right?
Yeah.
But they were all under Ruthless Records, which is basically who ran NWA.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That was all
DOC
Jerry Heller shit.
yeah, exactly. That's how he embezzled millions.
Fuck
Mooched off these young gentlemen.
you. So,
DOC basically released his solo album, which tops, like, it became #1. It was rap and hip hop and R&B. It was a little bit all three. They said that, he was the future voice of rap and hip hop. That's what they kept on saying.
yeah.
That's what, if you look up like any old interviews, that's what they Suge Knight say. That's what even the
Well,
N.W.A group says.
and that
And
was like, I think that was back in '89 that he released that, right? So it's been a couple years since then, if I remember correctly. But when he released his, they were already doing NWA. So Eazy-E and DOC, they were all still, and even Dre, they were doing their own little solo things on the side, but they were still like collectively in NWA.
yeah. Okay,
Um,
so basically DOC released that album or whatever. It topped, and then 2 months later he got into a car accident. He almost died. Driving down the freeway, fell asleep, wasn't wearing a seatbelt, flew out the back window, hit a tree, or hit his neck, hit a tree, and basically messed up his vocal cords permanently.
yeah,
And he had a friend. We're not gonna say his name. This guy, he was a bodyguard, but he was a businessman, and he saw that the end dude, it wasn't helping DOC out with like the medical bills, or like what was like, where's his money? Like, this guy's a rapper, like, where he just released an album, like, where's that money? So he went over, got his contract over, and then that's when Suge Knight, that's when Dr. Dre came to Suge Knight and asked him about the contract, and
yeah.
like that's when they realized all that sketchy stuff was going on.
And that's when Dre and DOC, they actually left Ruthless Records and then they joined Death Row, which was Suge Knight had at the time. And then when they went with Death Row, that was the end of NWA right there. When Dre and DOC left, right?
Yeah,
Um,
but it was like it became such a complicated manner, like, on them leaving, because Eazy had basically had a contract with Dr. Dre saying that he couldn't leave, or if he did leave, that he would have to pay him like a percentage of his albums for the next 6 years.
yeah,
And Dr. Dre was like, "Fuck it, I'll leave. I don't care." Yeah, that's what he did
yeah.
it. So he
Well,
was
and I
okay
think
with leaving.
he did have to pay. He didn't have to pay it to Eazy, but he had to pay it to Ruthless Records. So he actually had to pay like it was like I can't remember what percentage, but he had to pay something to them. So they were still making money off of him even after he left, like you were saying. But then when he went with Death Row, he released The Chronic. And then Eazy-E was still releasing all that freaking nonsense. He was still coming with those diss tracks. He made like the bitches ain't shit. He did all of that. Which, dude, I sometimes listen to that song.
You
So
still play and look at yourself in the mirror, huh? You're
yeah,
like,
bitches ain't shit. Yeah. But then everything kind of like everyone's famous at this point. Everyone still has their careers. Everyone's doing good. And then 1995 comes around. Eazy-E is dead. Then what happens, right? Eazy-E's gone. And let's keep in mind, a couple weeks before he passed away, he had gotten diagnosed with AIDS, right? And he actually made amends with Dre. And I think that they had been talking about like let's get the group back together, like let's release something, let's do something crazy, like let's do it. And then boop, dead that quick.
Boop dead.
Yeah, it happened really fast.
Was it 2 weeks after
Yeah,
being
it was like,
diagnosed, something like that?
well, I think he had been diagnosed, yeah, because I don't know if he got diagnosed. There was like a lot of information on the internet about it, and everything's a little bit different. So based on how the movie portrays it, is he started like getting bronchitis symptoms. He had like cold and flu, like just a cough, and he was feeling like crap. He goes in because he's like something's wrong, and they're like let's figure this out, and they do the test, and they're like, bro, you have full blown AIDS. And then 2 weeks later, he's just dead. He comes out, he has to tell everyone like I have AIDS, and then he's just dies. Like he's just in critical condition at this point, and then he just is gone. It happened like super super quick, so it was just crazy. And his
It's like something that doesn't make sense.
yeah, it just one of the interviews I was watching, it was talking about how when you get AIDS, typically it's weird because it starts as HIV, and then there's like different stages in it, just like as if it was cancer, right? So there's like this stage where you like contract HIV, and then there's a stage where you have it and it's like brewing in your system and living in there, but you're not experiencing any symptoms. And then there's just boom, you start getting symptoms, and then boom, full blown AIDS, and then it just goes downhill. But when you have HIV and when you have AIDS and stuff like this is why there's a lot of conspiracies around it, because when you have it, your immune system is weakened, just like when you have cancer. And so his friends are like, well, that's weird because they're going on tours, they're like doing some nasty shit, they're going out into places filled with germs in the freezing cold, they're doing all this stuff, and he never had any symptoms, never got sick, never even picked up so much as a common cold. Now all of a sudden he's dead after 2 weeks of you telling us this. So then people started to think like, this is getting a little sus.
One,
He dies.
because he had a family, he had a kid, he had a wife, he had a bunch of girls he slept with, right? And none
Yeah.
of them had AIDS. Or no, he didn't have just one kid. I think he had 3 kids.
Oh,
So
so actually, that's where it's a little weird with the kids thing, because I was thinking the same thing. Because then people started being like, "Oh, is he gay? He was gay." Because like back then, you only like people just immediately assumed if you got AIDS, you're gay, because that's just what they did. And
yeah,
when he was diagnosed, he didn't know that he was gonna like die so quickly. I don't think. I think they thought like, "Oh well, like save me," and then they couldn't. He actually had a large amount of kids, and he had to, in his little statement that he released, he had to tell the public like, hey, I have AIDS, I'm not doing well. He in that statement he said that he was basically unfaithful, and he slept with a lot of women. He had gotten 6 other women have kids with him,
damn.
apparently.
So he has a lot
And
of
that,
kids then.
yeah, and he released that in his statement that like he had got around, and that he had been with other women, and that he didn't live the best lifestyle, and that's basically what happened. Then he's just all of a sudden dead. So then people start getting real freaking sus and being like, okay, well, could someone have killed him? What the heck? And then people are like, nah, how are they going to give him AIDS? And this is where all the conspiracies came into play. I don't even want to call them conspiracies because, like you and I were saying earlier, like a lot of his friends and stuff, there's been like solid things that they have said that have been like, someone shot him up with AIDS. You know what I mean? Someone
Yeah,
intentionally did this.
the silent way of killing someone, you know.
Mm-hmm. Suge Knight. Okay, so everyone talks about Suge Knight being like a very bad person, obviously, and I'll cover more about like his past crimes and stuff in a second. But everybody in all of the interviews have said really bad things about him, and that like maybe it was him, because did he benefit from Eazy-E dying? Yeah, because he was getting part of those royalties, right? He's still out there dissing. He's out there taking
Well, and it was also like
attention.
basically the only record label that was going against his, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Prior to, we'll go back to Eazy-E a little bit because this is where kind of Suge Knight comes into play. So prior to Eazy-E, like saying, hey, I have AIDS, whatever. He was actually in critical condition and like in the ICU at the point that he came forward and had to make a statement because it literally happened so fast, right? This is like prior to his own admission, right? He was like basically being dominated because everyone else, like Death Row starting up, they're like they're like his biggest competitor at this point. It's just nonstop diss tracks. Jerry Heller at this point is saying, okay, well, the only reason Dre got out of his contract is because Suge Knight came up and like threatened his life, basically had baseball bats and lead pipes and was like threatening him. So this is a
Yeah.
quote directly from Jerry Heller. I think even more so now that Suge Knight is an evil human being. Eazy-E once told Jerry Heller, he said, you know that guy Suge Knight? I said, yeah. He said, I'm going to have to kill him. This guy's going to be a problem, and I think I should kill him. I told Eazy-E, this is, like I said, I'm talking from Jerry Heller, not from myself, obviously. Let me think this through. First of all, we're doing $10 million a month with 6 employees. We don't have a typewriter in the office. We're the most successful startup record company in the history of music business, and you want to kill this guy? This doesn't make any sense. You know something, though? I should have let him kill him. I would have done the world a favor. He would have done it for sure by himself. He always rolled by himself, and he was fearless. I think that he was actually going to do it. I shouldn't have talked him out of it. Ruthless would probably still be around. Dr. Dre and Ice Cube would probably still be with Ruthless, and it would have been an empire. That's what he said.
Damn. But honestly, honestly, right there, I feel like he was spinning some fire, some facts.
And I don't like Jerry by any means, but what was the empire? See, he seems so selfish though, because it's like he's talking about the
Makes it just sound
empire, right?
about
But
money,
for who?
bro.
For who?
Makes,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So then at this point, Jerry Heller actually before Eazy-E passed away, he had actually fired Jerry Heller at this point. And so he had fired him, and Jerry Heller actually sued him for leaving. And so there's all kinds of sus shit that's going on here.
Because it makes you think, what was he doing? If he went to that lengths
If
to get fired
Eazy-E
and
even
then sued him.
exactly. So then at this point, so I don't know if he won the lawsuit. I actually don't know. I doubt it but who knows? So at this point, right before Eazy-E passes away, right, he tells is it BG Knockout, and this other guy, I think his name was Donovan, when he was at the recording studio, he was having kind of like a bronchitis issue that day. And so he was like chilling on the floor, just like sitting there having trouble breathing. And so they sat with him and they were like, dude, you good? He pulled out like one of those manila envelopes with all these papers, and he was showing it to that Donovan guy saying like, look, like this is all the shit Jerry stole from me. Like he was down bad, so he was just showing him all the stuff. There was like proof at this point that Jerry had been like embezzling millions of dollars. We'll touch more on that because Jerry literally has never been proven like in court or to the media or anything that he had actually stole stuff. And he died, I don't know, in 2016 or 17 or something. And he still, till the day he fucking died, denied stealing from them, which is crazy. So then right before, I think it was just like literally 10 days before Eazy-E dies, that's when he married Tamika Woods. And she was pregnant with his second child. They already had a kid together, and she was a couple months from giving birth to their other kid. Neither of those kids or his wife tested positive for HIV ever. Weird, right?
Yeah.
Because like he obviously is having sex with her a ton, and she's pregnant, and the kid wasn't born with it. And like it was just really sus. No one was getting AIDS from him. And so then people are like, no, this is a setup. One has to know, right? Because people, like you said, there's that interview from that guy Frost. He comes out and says, no, I know who did it, and I know what happened. And then there's an interview from that same guy, BG Knockout, and he said, and I got a quote from him directly, I believe in my heart someone did something to Eric. Eric Wright was Eazy-E's real name. Whether it was Jerry, whether it was Tamika, I have yet to really know the truth about it. But for a person to have full-blown AIDS that quickly is suspicious. My little brother, his father died from full-blown AIDS, from sharing a needle because he was an addict. Now, I've seen this man go through these stages from HIV to full-blown AIDS. And when you get a cold, any little thing like that, your whole immune system shuts down. So you have to go into the hospital just to recover from that. Now, to be around Eric for the last 3 years of his life and to have never had an episode like this, never ever, something's strange, something's really odd. And then you're going to come out and tell me that the man goes in for bronchitis. You're going to tell me that this man had full blown AIDS, and we had just been to New York. We just been to Chicago in the 0-degree weather, and he never even got sick. He's never had an episode. Like, come on, bro. Who are you kidding? That was like his last interview about it, which kind of like I was saying before, like they've all seen people die from AIDS, and then all of a sudden this just goes from 0 to 100 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, like it just escalated so quickly.
Yeah. Then people start getting sus, like, because like he said, like, how did you really want me to believe this? Suge Knight goes on TV. He's on Jimmy Kimmel. This is like right after he gets released from jail, right? He goes on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and this is back in 2003. He does an interview, and he's talking about like shooting someone and how like that wasn't his preferred method.
You don't have to kill people with guns anymore.
Yeah, basically. He said like that's not his preferred way of getting his point across. He didn't want to shoot someone. The quote that he said is, the technology is so high, so if you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. You don't want to go to jail forever. They have a new thing out. They have this stuff they get the blood from somebody with AIDS and they shoot you with it. That's a slow death. That Eazy-E thing, you know what I mean? That's what Suge Knight said on TV. Like, damn. Yeah, why would you come out and say that, dude? If you weren't guilty. I mean, like, I guess he maybe could have just been saying it, but I don't know, dude. I think someone did it.
It was a little too sus, like, for him to say it like that, right?
Yeah. And then Jerry Heller comes out with another statement, and he says, and I quote, "Do I think something fishy happened to Eazy? Absolutely. I don't believe for a second that someone with as much money as he did and could afford whatever, like Magic Johnson could, who doesn't even test positive anymore. I don't believe that he could have possibly died that quickly from full-blown AIDS. I don't believe it. I think that something went on there. And like I say, I have my own ideas of who I think was involved, but all I'm willing to say is I'm the only one who didn't profit from him passing away." That was what Jerry Heller said at one point.
Damn, bro. I didn't profit. I mean, I didn't get enough money.
Because he already taken all his money, so that's why he didn't profit from shit. Because he literally didn't have anything left to leave him, So no, something did. Well, and then his wife, I guess kind of like BG said, is like he didn't know if maybe Tamika had anything to do with it, or Jerry. He said he doesn't really know anything about it. But now if you think about it, so after I heard that quote, like, I didn't profit from it, I was like, who did profit from it then? And like his wife got full ownership of his record label. I'm not saying she did it. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I'm just saying, so there was that. Jerry could have done it, but Suge Knight benefited from it a lot. So, actually,
who would also benefit from it?
Dre.
Dr. Dre.
Interesting, right?
Right, yeah. It could have been, it could have been a group effort. It couldn't have, like, everyone's like, it was Suge Knight, right? But how do we know it wasn't, like, let's just say it was Suge Knight. It could have been Dr. Dre and another homie. Like, they got together and be like, let's take this guy out. Like, we're going to benefit from it. We're going to make millions.
And then they did it, like, the worst possible way, too, like, which is horrible.
Because if it ate him up, right, when he got sick, basically, right?
Yeah. Well, and like people were saying that like literally he had no symptoms up until he's got like pneumonia or whatever, and then all of a sudden he just died. It's just insane. Well, and then
how does a super healthy person go from like being fine to die, cancer stage 3 sickness?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then that Frost guy that we were talking about earlier, he did an interview, and I actually got the link for it, so I'll post that in our LinkedIn. And I'll post some other interviews in there for you guys to watch too. But he went on and he said, "I'm going to tell you what happened with Eazy getting AIDS, and I believe it to this day. And I don't care if you got it on film. You can tell the world they gave him tainted needles with acupuncture, needles that tainted him. They gave it to him." And then he also said, "I don't want to say the name because it's the devil's name, but another person in rap. And if you know the history of rap, calls him the devil." Before concluding that, like how could you die from AIDS that fast and blah, blah, blah. So he basically said like he knows who the alleged murderer is and that he knows how they did it. So
it's so sad, bro. Like,
dude, it is.
The way they took him out.
I don't know. That is horrible. Because then he like, because especially back then, for an artist like him, gangster, like black guy, to come out and say he has AIDS, and everyone's like, oh, so like you're gay, you're this, and it like probably brought a lot of heat on him in that aspect, and then he just has to die from it, and then everything
I
that he
feel
worked
like
for that whole time. He was 30 years old.
it was like the stress from all that, like everything that happened, and then him being sick. It just like his body couldn't keep up with it.
It's horrible. Who knows? And then at some point we got to talk about. We can do this on another episode, but at some point, like Tupac has to come into play here too, and Snoop Dogg, because as soon as
Snoop Dogg was
Tupac also
already in
benefited.
death row, so
Yeah, well, and Tupac also benefited because I think he died later that year, right? Tupac. What year
yeah,
did he die in?
no, I
95,
think
right?
95, yeah, but I think no, or yeah, 95.
I'm gonna
Was
look that
it?
up.
Damn.
I don't know. We just talked about him in like one of our last episodes, and I literally can't remember when Tupac died. So hold on. 96. Okay, so it was a year later.
96. So then Biggie dies the same then a year. Biggie and Tupac die a year later.
Yeah. So, uh, literally Tupac died a year later, but I think Tupac went and after he died released like tons of albums and shit right in between the time that Eazy died and he died. So that
Yeah.
also happens. Oh
There's
shit.
also
Oh.
Eazy-E before passing away. There's also him signing Boot Thugs and Harmony.
Yeah, Bone Thugs he did. And he signed it was another really big person. Who did he sign? I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, so when he died, right, his wife took over. And so since he had just signed Bone Thugs, she had to like take that over from him, and like so she's also responsible for making them who they were. And then here's another thing, right? So we'll bounce back to Jerry Heller for a minute. Jerry Heller has claimed millions of times, like I said, like so he co-founded Ruthless Records at the very beginning. So he basically like helped get everyone, famous in a way. I don't want to give him much credit, but I mean he did. And he was like a big record producer, he was like a big dude out there. He has also done music with people like Elton John and like who else? Pink Floyd, Tina Turner. Like he did like a lot of big artists. So then you would
And
think
then
like,
he
oh,
and then
maybe
he
he's not so
also
sus.
he also like before signing the N.W.A. he also had a Dr. Dre's band. Like they had a group. He had them too.
That's wild, dude.
So like he knew Dre, just not like that, not
Yeah.
until he started seeing the beats.
So he has like been with big groups like this, but ever since N.W.A, especially, like his reputation for being shady as hell has always like kind of shadowed over him no matter what. So Heller, like he did a memoir, which I'll post that in the links too, called Ruthless, a memoir. That's literally what it was called. He said that the claims from Dr. Dre and Ice Cube were untrue, and that he wanted legal action taken against him. He actually like I almost said screwed. Well, he did screw them, but he sued them for defamation after like the Straight Outta Compton movie came out in like 2015, and he was looking to get 110 million dollars of like from them for the defamation charges. Like what an idiot, right? Like he's I didn't steal from them. I don't need money. I'm fine. Like then he's like, I'm actually gonna sue you for 110 mil because I ain't doing so
He's
hot,
like,
right?
actually, no, I'm just
Well, he said like it bothered me, like they portrayed me wrong. I'm not a thief. I'm not scandalous. All this stuff. I did more for N.W.A. Than they, are letting you know about. So he didn't
believe it
dispute
or
that.
not. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, and so then they start thinking like one of the guys who I was reading his research, he says that like Dre and Ice Cube actually never like sued Jerry Heller for like the money that they were owed. So then he said, like, was he really stealing from them, or did they both just sign really shitty deals, Because, like, they did have their agreements. So then here's where it comes down to more money stuff. And, like, this was Jerry Heller's problem the whole time. So depending on what Eazy, like, truly found out, like, Jerry Heller could have had something to do with his death, too. That seems like a real white person thing to do is, like, shoot someone up with AIDS instead of, like, shooting them, like, like all these other rappers got killed. That was probably racist. I probably shouldn't have said it, but it's like, whatever. So This will touch a little bit on like Ice Cube too. So he was like the songwriter, right, for Straight Outta Compton. He also, like you said, was on Eazy-E's like Easy Does It thing. So he wrote all that music. And you know how much it sold? More than 5 million copies between the albums combined. And
Damn.
by the middle of 1989, you know how much money and royalties Ice Cube had received from all that?
How many? How much?
$32,000.
Damn.
Yeah, like $32,000. But wait, I have some stuff on Dre too. So this is while they're still
Damn.
signed. This is where when they're still with Jerry Heller, right? So he had received about 32,700 in album royalties. That's just from the royalties, and they said in a bit less than that, just from like the first tour for N.W.A. You know, their first big national tour. So let's say that's like around 60 grand. That's all. And I mean 60 grand. Like I wish I had 60 grand, but for like what he was doing, that's nothing, you know. So
I
then,
mean, basically, they. I don't know, dude. That's a lot of work to write music.
yeah. So then Dr. Dre, well, he's, meanwhile over there producing like platinum and gold albums for Ruthless Records because he did N.W.A, Eazy-E, DOC, Michelet, whatever her freaking name is, generating tens of millions of dollars in sales. It's unclear how much he was paid in total from that. Like there was nothing on there that said exactly how much he was paid from all of that stuff. But Heller went and told like Rolling Stone in an interview that Dre had made about $86,000 from Ruthless Records in 1992. That's it. $86,000. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then Dre also said like Eazy took advantage of me not knowing the record business back in the day. So he blamed Eazy-E and he blamed Heller for like the fucked up contracts. But then they were like, yeah, well they never sued to get that money that they thought they were owed. So it probably was just some really shitty deals, but they got fucked, dude.
Yeah, they got taken
Yeah.
advantage of hard being young, like the young gentlemen that they were, like without them knowing the industry,
Yeah,
messed them
exactly.
up for years.
At this point in the memoir, Jerry Heller says that like he actually tried to like sweeten the pot, a little for Dre and tried to like offer him another deal. So he said that like he offered to pay Dre a $2 million advance if he like came with them. And obviously the deal fell through and Dre went to death row instead. And then he got to sign and like start making music with Snoop Dogg and Tupac and stuff like that. That's kind of where everyone's like something bad happened to him. It's a coincidence, or it's just a really bad coincidence that he just happened to get AIDS and die in the midst of all this stuff that was going on. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess it's
despite
possible, but
despite the chaos that was happening, like you would think
yeah, I don't know, something's up,
it don't
dude.
make sense.
No, and then Suge Knight, we'll talk about him because I got his whole little timeline of his crimes, right? Because I've never seen an interview, at least from today's day, like maybe back in the 90s, there's some would be like, oh yeah, Suge Knight's my friend, but no one likes Suge Knight now. Like
Everyone just says he's a scary person.
yeah, they said he's evil, an evil person. So in 1996, Suge Knight was sent to prison for nearly 5 years for badly beating a rival with the rapper Tupac at a Las Vegas, Nevada hotel. The beating came shortly before Tupac was killed. So he went to prison for that for like 5 years, right? So then in 2002, he was jailed for violating his probation by associating with gang members. In 2003, he went back to jail on parole violation after punching a parking lot attendant. In 2005, he was shot in the leg during an MTV Music Video Awards pre-party. No arrests were made. 2006, Death Row Records filed for bankruptcy, and a Los Angeles judge ordered a trustee to take it over because of the gross mismanagement. So, like, this is just like Suge Knight's timeline of things, right?
Okay.
2009, Knight was hospitalized for the treatment of facial injuries following a fight at a hotel in Scottsdale, Arizona. 2013, he was arrested on an outstanding warrant and later released after being pulled over for a traffic violation, right? And then 2014, he was shot during an altercation at a Hollywood nightclub at a party not affiliated with the cable network. And it was like an MTV Music Award, so they were like, it wasn't affiliated. And then again in
It wasn't, but it
2014,
was. I just
yeah, it had like it was, you know what I mean? Like maybe it wasn't an MTV Music host, but like it happened there. Again in 2014, he was charged with robbery involving a camera theft in Beverly Hills. He pled not guilty and could face up to 30 years
They're
in
like,
prison
is
if
that Suge
convicted.
Knight? And then he just takes the camera.
Yeah, nope, not me. He pled not guilty and could face up to 30 years in prison if he was convicted of any crime because of like his history, right? Because he had already been on parole. And then in 2015, he was arrested on suspicion of murder in a hit and run that killed a man and injured another. You know more about this than I do, right? About
Yeah. Okay. So basically, he was it in 2015? Basically, he was at the studio or whatever, like the place where he worked at. How do I say?
I can't
Suge
remember.
Knight is just Suge Knight is just in there, dude. He's not a rapper. He's just like an overly
He's just
hyped
there, dude.
bodyguard.
Yeah.
An overly hyped bodyguard, if that's, and with influence, I guess you could say. He's got influence. So one of the members, from Bone Thugs and Harmony, he he allegedly got attacked, and he got in his truck and took off, and he backed into the Sloan from Bone Thugs and Harmony, and basically hit him with the truck. It didn't run him over. He hit him with the truck, and then when he took off forward, he ran over the business person from there. Is Terry? We'll just call him Terry. So we'll
Okay.
put anyone on blast. And he smushed him with his tires. He had is it a Ford Raptor, but like the lifted ones with the big tires,
Yeah.
probably like some 32s. You know what I mean? Some big chunky boys. And he just runs over this man like paste. And that guy dies from his injury at the hospital like not that long ago.
Oh, he died?
Yeah, he dies
Oh well,
from
I
his
knew one of
injuries.
them died. I thought he died like right then and there.
No, they got to the hospital and then
He died there.
obviously, yeah.
And the other guy was just hurt.
Yeah, the other guy was just hurt because he just backed into him, but the other guy he ran over like completely.
Well, and then he's serving a lot of time in prison, and he's up for parole in 2034. So we've got about 10 years prep, and he's old. So like by the time he gets out, like how old will he be by the time he gets out? Let me look. I'll Google
I don't
it.
know. Just prepare yourself with the blicky, Miranda. We'll be ready.
Or he's gonna hear this and be like, "They just called me a hyped bodyguard." Suge Knight's age. He's 58 years old right now. So by the time he can get out of prison, he's gonna be 68, dude.
68. You can take him, Miranda. No, just yeah.
Dude, and like
You
now,
can take him. Just go with your dog, and then you just shoot him in the kneecap, and you'll be like, "That was for Eazy-E."
what's his face? Snoop Dogg owns Death Row Records now. It's crazy, dude. The way things really like just did a domino effect, and now everyone's dead. And freaking Dre, he sold Beats by Dre to Apple for like some crazy amount, like $3 billion or something, dude.
Damn.
Oh
So he
God, let
sold
me
his
look
soul
it up.
to Apple, basically.
How much did
I don't know.
Dre
That's business.
sell?
It's business deals.
Yeah, $3 billion. On August 1st, 2014, yeah. Well, on August 1st, 2014, Apple acquired Beats for $3 billion in cash and stock deal, the largest acquisition in Apple's history. That's
So
fucking
they
insane, right?
own Beats by Dre then?
Yeah, they own it now.
So do you think he still gets money from it then?
Oh, actually,
That's
I don't
funny,
know.
dude. They could have done
I
a
don't know if he
better
still
deal,
gets it
and they
or if
could
he
have.
was done with. Go ahead.
I don't think so, because they could have done the thing where they could have included headphones with the iPhone, right? And they could have started being Beats, and they shit like that sells more. So maybe
I'm like reading. There's
they
all
just
kinds of
sold it
stuff on
off.
this that we need to research soon. Dre's net worth makes him one of the richest rappers in history from how much he makes from beats.
Damn.
Who killed Eazy, or did he kill himself by doing bad things?
Damn. I guess we'll leave that up to everyone else, right? What are your thoughts, Miranda? Do you think he killed
I think someone
killed
got him,
himself,
dude.
or someone got him?
I think someone got him, dude.
You think someone got him from Bompton?
Yeah, you're stupid.
Yeehaw, brother.